Hello people, it is your boy Toyin, back again with another video. And today I'm providing an update on how it's going for me building the greatest app in the world for dancers called DanceBuddy. Stick around to the end of the video because I got some exciting updates on features that I've added so far and some of the things I've encountered whilst making this kind of application. As always, like, share and subscribe. Don't be a hater and be watching these videos and not subscribing to the channel. That is bad vibes. And you're not bad vibes, are you? So subscribe to the video. Do it now because you're going to forget. So yeah, just do that. But yeah, I'm going to get into this video, talk a little bit about some of the new features I've added, and then also some issues I kind of have run into or have kind of overcome on some things I've been thinking about whilst developing this application. So yeah, this is the app. As you can see here on the side, UI wise, pretty much nothing has changed. Being honest, the way I work and the way I work best, I tend to leave UI things and making things look nice more towards the end. I focus a lot more on functionality when I'm building applications. Now everyone's different. Some people like to have that kind of visual element to it and that visual feedback of like the app coming together slowly and having things look nicer, etc., etc. The way I work is just I tend to focus more on the functionality, the big functionality bits first, and then come back to the UI things, make it look nice. So I'm definitely more of a make it work first kind of guy, and then come back to the UI and make it look nice. Another way that I kind of tend to work as well is a lot of people work kind of back to front. So you might develop the database first, have the data structures in place, and then create the API for that to call this data, and then you work on the UI. I kind of work on create the simple UI first, then mock the data so I know kind of what I need for the different elements in the UI, and then I create the database. So far with DanceBuddy, I've created no databases at all. In terms of users, in terms of the files, etc., I've created no databases. I'm just mocking stuff using some offerings and services that are already available. So the authentication from Firebase, for example, offers this anonymous sign-in functionality, so I can mock essentially a user signing in. I'll figure that out a bit later. But yeah, everyone has different ways of working. You just need to do what's best kind of for you whilst you're coding. But getting back into this, so the app pretty much looks the same, but there's two major bits of functionality that I've added since my last video. So as before, we have this button here, there's a plus button. I'm probably going to change that to something else a bit cooler, a bit more obvious in terms of that it needs to be pressed on. But you can click on this button and you can now see an extra kind of action button, floating action button. So that's the create folder. So before you could pick new videos and upload them. So on this page, you can pick videos and then upload them to Firebase and it would display on the home screen. That's functionality already implemented, but now these are able to actually create a new folder that they can then go into and upload new videos into. Hopefully that makes sense. So this create new folder, it creates this little dialog pop-up, which is quite cool. I'm just going to show the code for that as well. So on the upload screen, we have this show dialog method, and then this show create a folder dialog. And here we have this kind of dialog or pop-up modal, whatever you want to call it. You have the text for creating the new folder itself. That's just the kind of heading that you can see on the side, and then the folder name. And then I'm listing all of the folders within Firebase. So this drop-down list, I have 4 folders in Firebase at the moment. So you can create a folder inside of another folder, or you can create it at the root. So that's the very top level. So let's say I create a new folder inside the root. Let me call that folder 5. I just create. And when I create that, it goes into Firebase. It creates the folder. Because Firebase doesn't really have a concept of folders, it kind of just has locations of files. What I do is I create this folder, and then I can go into it and essentially create this placeholder file within the folder. So it's not really a folder that's been created, a folder that has something inside of it. Later on, I'm going to implement something that filters out any files that I don't need, these placeholder files, so it's not an issue at the moment. So we've created a folder. Let me also then just create a folder inside of another folder. So we can do that inside folder 2. I'm just going to create folder 2A and create that. And after a little bit of time, I'm going to create that folder. Let's go back here. Let's step into folder 2. And there's already some stuff in here, but you can see here folder 2A is within folder 2. That's a little bit of functionality I've added. This took me a little bit of time because, yeah, it was a little bit complex, but it was good to work on. I've created that little pop-up modal as well. So I've learned a little bit of how to use a new widget style within Flutter, that pop-up modal, which was quite cool. And I'll probably be using that in other places as well. So that's one. I'm able to create folders now. So obviously, the idea of the app is that you can create folders, and within these folders, you can then upload whatever files you want to, right? So every folder will have different stuff, different files inside of it. Going back now, all right, and the second major feature that I've added since my last video is actually a really cool one, and one I'm actually very proud of already in building this application. So what I've added since my last video, which was such a ball ache to implement, it took me a long time to actually figure this out, definitely a few days and a lot of starting and restarting, but let me show you what the functionality actually is. So what you can do now is you can drag and drop. That was essentially the functionality I've added since my last video, a major one I've added. It took me a long time, took me a lot of code, but what I can do now is I click on the video, hold it, where you can see that I can drag it, and I can drag and drop it into another folder. So let me drop it into folder 4 there, and you can see the logs here. I'm inside the file drop method, which is my method for moving things. Then I upload the file and I get a success kind of snap bar, right? So I'm uploading the file to this new location inside folder 4, and then delete the existing file, and then I get a another kind of message in my print logs. So let me show you this code, because this was it was a fun. I mean, it was fun in the end, but yeah, it was a little bit frustrating. It took me a long time to actually figure this out. But essentially, in my video card, each one of these kind of files or folders that you see is a video card. What I can do is I've implemented a drag and drop widget. So the widget itself, let me call this method, I'll show you here. So it's a drag target. So every video card is a draggable, so you can drag it, right? But it's also a drag target. So every one of these is a draggable, I can drag them, but they are also a drag target, which means I can drop into them what has been dragged. Hopefully that makes sense. So that took me a little bit of time to figure out how to make each one of them, each video card itself, a draggable and a drag target. That's what I had to implement. I managed that. So the draggable, allowing me to drag the actual video card, it was fairly simple to implement. I still need to work out how to make it look nice. So at the moment, it's like a half image of the video card itself. I might probably make that full length, etc., etc. But it wasn't too bad to implement. The difficult part was this drag target, and when you drop something onto the drag target, it then calls this function file dropped up folder. So this method, essentially what it does, and you saw from the logs, it uploads the file. So it has like the parent folder, which was folder 4. It takes the file that was added and uploads it to Firebase. Because Firebase doesn't have a smooth concept of moving files, what you have to do is you have to upload the file to the new location, then delete the file from the old location, and well, that's it, right? So to do that, I had to first download the existing file, get it from Firebase, the existing file, download it, then create a new reference, which is the new location, then upload the existing file that I have downloaded already, and then I go in and delete the existing file, right? Hopefully that makes sense. But that's how you have to do it. It was a little bit complicated. It took me a lot of code, but I did manage to implement that. And what I found whilst doing this is actually a lot of times when you're coding, especially something a bit more complex, you might have to start a couple of times. So I was working my way through this using Flutter documentation, using Stack Overflow, and also using a lot of kind of Gen AI to give me different ideas on how I could implement this. And there was a couple times where I actually had to start from scratch. So I wrote a bunch of code, deleted it all, and started again. And sometimes it just be like that, man. Sometimes you have to do it that way. It helps you think your way through the problem, and it also allows you to see different approaches. So in the end, I managed to implement this. It's really cool. I'm very happy with being able to implement this. Definitely not perfect yet, because one thing I can show you right now is you can also drag folders, and eventually I want to be able to drag and drop folders into other folders and then take every file within the initial folder and move it. But at the moment, if I try and do that, just get an error message, right? It doesn't quite work. So that's definitely something to figure out. As I mentioned earlier, in the way I work, I'm definitely a big functionalities person first and then look at the details later. So what I have at the moment is kind of this to-do list of things that need to be figured out. So little things like being able to move a folder or make it look nicer, make it highlight, etc. Those little things, I don't tend to focus on them whilst I'm working on something big. I just write them down on my to-do list. So you can see it's getting quite long, but that's just the way I work and the best for me. So figure out the best way that you work. Maybe you're the kind of person that when you implement a certain feature or functionality, you want to implement it in its completeness, have it working perfectly and looking nice. Maybe that works best for you. It doesn't for me, so I do it this way. But yeah, I think that's basically the two major bits of features or functionalities I've added since my last video. I'm very proud of them, actually. It took a lot of code and a lot of perseverance so far. Definitely a few days of working on them, but they work, which I'm happy about. So now I can start to implement different features, make them look nicer, etc., and refine them. In terms of what's next, for me, definitely it is cleaning up my code base. So already it's looking quite messy. For example, my video card has this class dragging list item, which I just don't want in here. I did this just for ease and trying to get this working, but I need to create new widgets, etc., and move things into their proper place. I've decided to follow the Flutter documentation for this, use the recommended architecture that I'll probably create a video on later. So I'm going to try and implement that over the next few days, maybe a couple of weeks. And then the other thing is to add some proper state management. So at the moment, whilst I was implementing this drag and drop feature, I actually learned how to use callback functions in Flutter. So when you're working with a child widget, so you, for example, my home screen is the parent. I have a child widget, which is my video card, and I'm passing data. I need to pass data from my video card to the home screen, because when you drag and drop, I need to update the state. And to do that, you need to use a callback function. So I learned how to use that, but I want to use better state management or more succinct state management within the whole application. So I mentioned it last time, I'm going to try and implement Riverpod at some point. But first, it's about code cleanup, code-based cleanup, make it look, or structure it in a better way so that I can extend my app a bit more easier and have it look nicer as well inside the code. So yeah, I babbled on a little bit, but never mind. So yeah, I'm just going to work on diligently. I'll work on that in the next few days, weeks, and I'll create another update video on the progress I make. If you stuck with me, well done, because I babbled a little bit at the end there, and definitely it's a bit of a technical video, but thanks for sticking with me. As always, as I mentioned earlier, like, share, and subscribe. Don't be a hater, but definitely subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.